Okay, put that to the side. What's up? Hopefully, I'm talking over the music. Most likely, I am. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Back to the vibes. Back to the vibes. Back to the vibes. Just against the narrative. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep it real, straight to the point today, cause this is gonna kind of be a long class. You know, I set up this with the idea of making something fun to teach and use it as a tool to, migrate to some other topics and discuss some things that people kind of avoid. And so we did the 10 Sephiroth. Originally, I'm gonna go ahead and put this up here and we're gonna do a slight walkthrough and then we're gonna get into episode 2. Welcome. If this is your first time, follow, like, subscribe, whichever one of them. If you here and you used to being here and you used to hearing me, still sit back and listen because I'm learning as I'm doing this. So some of this is new information for me. Some of this I'm figuring it out as I go. And like I said in the first video, the goal is be able to break down most of the things related to this because I'm not gonna dare say that I'm breaking down all of it because a wise man knows he knows nothing. I'm just hitting the points that come to me as I look for the information. So let's start the review for those people that weren't here before. Let me move a couple things around here and we can get started. Okay, I need to be on this screen. Okay, so I did realize that in the first video there was some times where I thought the mouse was on the screen that it wasn't. And so we're gonna try to avoid those mistakes. I believe what it was me trying to like be in the presentation view instead of over here. So if there's ever some time that you're listening around and you can't hear it, that's what happened. So episode 1 was pretty much just going over the 10 Sephirot. What are the 10 Sephirot, you might ask? They are this image here, which is all of the circles on this image or this chart here. And like I said, this is going to take a while for this because we went through the 10 circles this time. Now we're going through these 22 lines on the chart. Now, mind you, that's 10 circles, 22 lines, and the last line is 32 technically. So this is going to get a little complicated. So don't get lost in the formalities of this. Let's just kind of focus on this bit by bit, and then eventually I'm going to try to make all this make sense. But one thing I want to point out here is that between episode 1 and 2, you get the 10 Sephirot, and then you get the 22 paths, which is what we're going to get into next. And that gives you 32, plus the symbol itself in my eyes is 33. I'm a 33 life path number, so I figured I'll start with something in the 33, and so that's just what kind of made me start with this. I figured it'd be a good starting place and a good place to get into things. So let's go back through some of this. Not gonna do too much here. Okay, that's not gonna work. We're not gonna keep going back and forth. So here, bigger symbol. So we go to Kether. You know, it said Kether represented the crown, air source. Hawkman. Like I said, if you was here for the first end of the video, I do not pronounce these right. We're gonna work on it. We getting there. God ain't through with me yet. So number 2 is Hawkman or wisdom, the face of God or fire. Binah is understanding the mother and Saturn. Husad is mercy of God, majesty, vision of love, water, and Jupiter. Geburah is judgment, strength, vision of power, force, fire, and Mars. Teferet is beauty, harmony, sun, air. Nexa is victory, eternity, triumph, fire, Venus. Hod is images of God, truthfulness, splendor, water, and Mercury. Yesa is foundation, astrolight, moon, and air. I said it out of order, but whatever. Malkuth is the kingdom, is mystic, and earth. So those are just some of those concepts. And so that was episode 1. I gotta take a breath for this. So let me come back to the screen for a second. I just wanna, look at y'all for a minute because it's gonna be a minute. I gotta come up and take some air because this is gonna be one of those. Alright. And so I may still go back and forth. I have the cards here. As we go through this and we see how time goes, I may or may not do this, but I do have the cards here. So the way the paths work is twofold. I'm gonna explain a little bit about the cards first because I might not really get into it because the other half is a bit extensive, but since the image of the cards is here, I figured it would actually bring some value to it. But most of this is based off of another logic. As I got into it, I want to do both. Like I may just do a major arcana video and then y'all will see. So you see what I'm saying? Each card, we're gonna go through it. But these are just the major arcana, and the major arcana pretty much tell a story. Can't really see it too well, and I don't have the image quality for it, so there's no point in taking time for all of that right now. But as I slow down a bit, the major arcana tell the story of the fool going through a myriad of different things, and so there's a lot that gets into that, and I want to focus more on the aspect of the paths and this other aspect that comes into play with it. And so I don't want to spend as much time breaking down the story of the major arcana, and as I was doing this, I decided not to. So episode 3 will be the tying together of the major arcana, the Sephiroth, the paths, and a bunch of other things, how to travel the thing. So let me just get into this, and we'll get back to a couple of those other things as classes keep going. I decided to make this something I do, so we got time. Let's get back to this. Okay, so in the light of that, I got to touch my notes for the second part. And so this isn't depicted because, like I said, I don't have it outside of just my notes. But, well, technically it is depicted. So this is a bit of a Hebrew lesson, and that's why I say it's not depicted, because I don't technically have... Oh yeah, I do. Okay, so I almost want to look at, cause this is shown, or cause it shows it, but it doesn't really. You can't really see it. So, long story short, what I want to show is, just for frame of reference, because it's not going to be on the rest of the document as we move through it. It's going to more show the tarot. So we're going to do these kind of back and forth. But I wanted to give these couple of lessons before I got into it. So when we talk about the 22 paths, they're associated with, yes, the tarot. But if you look at the chart from episode 1, there's a lot of words here on these paths. So they give you what some people consider like a zodiac, or a thing that kind of represents like ox or a sword or whatever. And we're going to go through all of these things, and I'm going to reference this because it shows it as we go back and forth through it. But the key thing to see here is this Aleph and Beth and Daleth and Teth. Like I said, forgive me for all the people that are truly Hebrew and this is your culture, because I'm really finna butcher it. But I just want to teach the concepts, and the better I get with my Hebrew, I will come back and I will make sure to recite it for whoever feels like I'm disrespectful. But I want to get into this. So the principle here, in essence, not to make it too long, is the 22 paths are represented by the 22 letter Hebrew alphabet, or 22 of the letters from the Hebrew alphabet. And the important thing to realize here is that it's separated into the different types of letters. And so the different types of letters, what we talk about is Hebrew alphabet is separated into 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, and 12 simple letters. And so this plumbs into aspect here, but this is kind of outside of the lesson of what I really want to teach, and that's why I'm taking time to do it at the beginning. I think this is interesting information that I found out in the midst of my research that I wanted to share, kind of as a middle ground as we get into how the tarot and the Hebrew letters are both going to be on these things as I'm explaining it. I didn't want people asking, well, how you got the tarot and the this is both. So the 3 mother letters are the root letters that all the other letters descend from. Now, granted, I'm stupid because I didn't write down which ones were which, but because I understand the positions of it, I can tell you anyway. These 3 mother letters represent what they consider the Holy Trinity of air, water, and fire. And they are found as the middle pillars on this chart here. And so all the horizontal lines here, these 3 horizontal lines, are considered the mother letters in the Hebrew alphabet. They're Dalet, Tet, and Peh. And so that's just some basic information. Like I said, I didn't want to get too deep into this, but I wanted to give you a little bit about it. And so the second half of this would be the 7 double letters. All of these letters have dual meanings or dual concepts. They even have dual pronunciations. I didn't get into all of that today. Like I said, this thing is deep, so I want to try to give it to you in the portions that people can handle it. But these also represent the 7 planets, the 7 alchemic metals, and the 7 chakras. So these are all things associated with these letters. And these letters are found as the horizontal lines on the chart. I'm not going to go through all of them because, yeah. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got you. And then the 12 simple letters are only things that represent singular ideas, and they also correlate to the 12 zodiac. And these are represented by all the diagonal lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so that's just a quick lesson on Hebrew. I didn't want to get too deep into that because I am not at all educated enough to kind of give you that. But it's something else I want to point out while we're still at the beginning of things here. And so the key thing here is the reason why I want to wait to get into some of the formalities of this is because it's kind of complicated to teach all 22 of the paths without explaining that there's entirely 2 different ways that people view this. You see? And so with that being said, when you look at it from this, the 2 different ways are this is called the standard tree. And this is what you would call the Lurian tree. And so this is represented as a left brain understanding of this situation. And it kind of goes from one letter to the next. So it's like A, B, C, D, through the thing. And so this goes a little more abstract, and I didn't want to get into all of that. So for right now, for this episode, I'm going to leave that for episode 3. And I'm just literally finna run through these paths for y'all, because I don't want to keep y'all here all night on a Friday. It ain't too many of y'all really listening to me. And the ones that is, I appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good shit. But let's get into this actual episode, because I have given a hell of an intro. Can we not do that? How do I... things I need to learn. How do I just click on the part of it? Cool. Can we just... yeah. Okay, cool. See, we learning together, y'all. So, to make this trick quick, I'm going to run through each one of the paths and the numbers associated. And if I happen to have enough time on the back end, I will read through the 22 major arcana. If not, I will definitely probably make that a video of its own, because I don't believe it deserves to be rushed, because it's its own concept. So I just want to show its association to the 22 paths, as well as I wanted to show the association of the Hebrew alphabet to the 22 paths. And these are 2 things that you can study separately on their own. And then once you get an understanding of those 2 things, it will deepen your understanding that you got from this information. Because now you're not just looking at it as this and that, but you really understand it. So I'll do videos on those 2 topics separately. I'm just giving myself more work at this point. But let's get into this. I don't want to be here all night. Boom, 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 boom. So first, we have the Fool. And like I said, I'm not getting into the astral definitions here, but just understand the concept of starting with the Fool. You feel what I'm saying? Like, what do you think a fool is? And as we walk through this, the way I guess I'll do it is we'll just talk about the transitions from archetype to archetype, and less so about the mythological story that's told about the journey. But the general concept here is that you are the fool going on this journey, and you are meeting these concepts or these other archetypes that you embody to get to the next phase. So let's get into the first phase. So first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So I guess it's kind of like a school and a tarot lesson, like we learn in Hebrew. We learning tarot just to learn the tree of life. And that's why I said this is gonna be a hell of a class, because as I started digging into this, I realized that even surface level, this is kind of a deep topic. So first we have Aleph, which is what we would consider the connection from Kether to Hakma. And it's represented by an ox. There's a lot of reasons why we can get into that, but like I said, I really want to keep a lot of the mythology and other things for a little bit later. And that's just gonna make y'all want to come back and watch, maybe. But just know there can be a meaning to it. But the ox is there. It's representative of primal and the principal power behind all creation. So this is like we said, we're coming from Kether, which is source, or the prime potential, into Hakamon, which is like the potential action. So this is like this is the transition from non-action to potential action, if that makes sense. And also it's connected to the actionless, motionless. So it's like it's action, it's motion, it's like that's why it's potential energy, because it's like you're moving but you're not moving. It's like the intention to move, the intention to create, the intention to have a thought. It's the idea that we're having here. It's the essence of potential. It's air, again, like we said. And it's representative of the fool, because the fool is at one point connected to everything, or believes he knows everything, but also knows nothing at the same time. So it's an odd or a joke or also a trickster state for a lot of people. And so let's keep going. And so second, we have the magician. And so the story that I seen recently when I was studying this was this idea that the fool finds the magician with all of the cards that are on the set. And so you can't see it here. Let's try if I can bring it here, because this is something that I like that was pointed out from somebody when I was studying this. One day I'm gonna get y'all sources, but right now it's tedious. So this is the actual card. I guess I'll show y'all the fool while I'm here too. I come back and forth. So this is the fool card. You see what I'm saying? You got all the gifts right here, this secret thing that you have that you're carelessly holding on and you're about to fall off a cliff. And then you have the magician. But what I want to point out here is this is something I've never noticed, and this is why you got to get into occultism in a certain way, because sign and symbols just be sitting in your face. But it's interesting that the first card in the Major Arcana, well, the second card in the Major Arcana has the cup, the pentacle, the sword, and the wand there. And also infinity and the candle. So, just symbolism, paying attention to things. So pretty much these, he's asking you to pick. Or is he giving you all of them? That's why I say I'm not getting into the tarot right now, because we'd be here all night. It's so much. It's so much. And then there's my assumption and my creative vision and intuitive response to these things. And then there's like the book of knowledge of what people believe these things to mean and socially correct. And I don't want to get into any of that. So, we leave all that alone. And I'm an idiot, because I didn't even transition this over to live view. So I have been looking at myself. So this, like I said, we learned. Okay, so I'm gonna just make sure y'all see this here. So this is the Fool card. And so they say that all potential is here in this little box that he has. There's other details on the card, but like I said, I'm not gonna get into the symbolism too much. And I feel like I just went over all this for you not to see it. So I'm just going back. And so here, I just want to make sure y'all see it. Right here, you have the cup, the sword, the pentacle, and the wand. You see, and these are all the things that are the suits, the spades, the clubs, the hearts of tarot. Understand me? So let's keep going, because I don't know. It's just like it's certain shit you shouldn't skip if people just don't know it. Okay, so let's go back. Because I'm skipping a lot, to be honest with you. And so the second one would be Bet or Benin. Oh, it's Bet. It's the choice is the slot between. It's the path between Kether and Benin, which is where you will find this. And so this would be the second path. And so the second path is more about that first action in the creation process. So this is like, this isn't the idea. This is like the thought of it. It's like the potential of an idea. Like this is the first action. And then so you realize it's going from Kether to Benin. So it's going directly from source to the womb. And so it's interesting because in episode 1, majority of the time we talked about going from Kether to Hawkman. And this is why I think it's a bit misleading, because you can kind of go whichever one of these ways you want to, but you can't like skip. It's like chess almost. Like you can't just move how you want to. But if you understand the path and the process of that path well enough, you can walk to the next circle, if it makes sense. See, that's gonna kill me. So originally, the path of fire or the path of the flaming sword that we talked about involved going down the tree kind of like in a zigzag pattern. Where is it at? I found it after I was trying to explain it the hard way last time. And so this would be considered the path of the flaming sword. This would be us going boop, 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 and so, so that's just the one way that people depict traveling through this thing. And so what you realize, and where I want to teach this, is that, and the importance of this is that if you understand the principles on each one of these paths, you can understand how to travel it. Because if you understand where you're at, which is we're all starting here, which is the main lesson of the last time, you understand how to get to heaven, you understand which route you can take, and which principles it would be easiest for you to embody to plot a route for your manifestations, or a plot for your life, or a plot for your debt. There's a lot to get into here. And so we're going to get back to this. And so Beth represents a house, which I thought was odd. I'm like, a house. But then you think about a womb. A womb is a house for a child. And if it's representative of mother, which is what Benet is representative of mother, so this is the path to a home, which is the magician. You feel what I'm saying? This is the path to stability, to wholeness, to creation, for an idea or for different things. And also, I forgot that Mercury goes here. That's what's not here. I'm like, this looks like it's missing something. And Mercury is missing here. And so next we have, I guess I can do this every time because these pictures are blurry and disrespectful. I will take the 2 seconds to transition and show y'all my pretty face in this card, which is the High Priestess. And I just wanted to show y'all a better version of the card. Boom. Boom. Like I said, I'm not getting into the symbolism of the tarot right now, or which version of the tarot is the right or wrong. I just happen to have the same version of the tarot that was on the presentation. So that just happened to work out. And so we're going to keep going from there. And so here we have what they call Gamel, which is the third path. And Gamel is the third path. And I keep zooming out to show y'all there's an important part of here. So we went from here to here. We went from here to here. Now, mind you, this is our next path. We was just right here. There's 2 things here that's important, because from episode 1, I still ain't explained to y'all what this is or how this is here. But the path that takes you through here is called Gamel. and a representative of the high priestess. Expansion, a camel. Why? Because this is the longest path. You see what I'm saying? This is a path that you have to be almost built for or have the right transportation. But this is the path from Kether to Tiferet. And if you remember from episode 1, this is important because this is where I told you your soul was at. This is where I told you you're trying to get spiritually, kind of, sort of. This is like where you lift off from. And I said that because of this pathway. This is the quickest path from your soul to heaven. So this is your soul. This is kind of like your mind, like I said from the first episode. And this is kind of like your body. Now, granted, we gonna re-jumble up the meaning of all of these, whether it's body, whether it's astrologically, or a lot later. And so that's why I'm not locking in none of this, because it's like I'm gonna show y'all the different ways to travel it, to talk through it, and I don't really want to get into that. So back to the paths. And so, like I said, we represent the camel, the priestess, and the moon. And I feel like this is another thing that you gotta realize, because there is a moon card. So you realize that the high priestess, if you remember what the card was showing you, I'm gonna go back just so y'all can see this. And this is what I say once again, why I say the symbolism here is crazy. Because where's the moon? What's that? She's standing on the moon. See, and so how does all this symbolism come into play? What does it represent and why? What does the moon have to do with you skipping or moving through steps? And so I'm gonna tell you something that somebody told me a long time ago. You know, you listen to people and you get information, and sometimes people say stuff that make a whole lot of sense. But what this lady told me one day is that it's only 3 stones. There's only really 3 stones you need to worry about. That's the earth, the moon, and the sun. Now that may or may not come relevant back in here or later on, but something told me that it was relevant right now. And so the moon is one of, or related to, Gimel. I'm not gonna get into too much of why or how, but I could have just stayed on the screen. I'm an idiot because I need to come back and show y'all the Empress. So I'm really just doing this for the grace of making sure you see the card because of how bad image quality is on there. But so, what is the Empress? Like I said, I'm not getting into individually what the card means. I'm more so focused on the path. And in episode 3, we'll get into the tarot a little bit more. Or I might do like an in-between episode just to go through the tarot directly. But there's so much here. So Dalit is what we're really talking about here. And it's represented by the Empress, like we said a moment ago. And if I do that again, Dalit is the path in between. From Benet to Hakman. Now mind you something. We did say that the 3 paths in the middle represent the 3 mothers. And the Empress is for sure a mother. Another thing to note as we go through this, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into every little thing that I can get into here. And I'm going to stop expressing how much I'm not going to and just move on. So this also deals with dimensions or doors and Venus. So the Empress will love, somebody call her the Queen of Hearts. That's the head of that shit. That's just me putting shit together. Don't quote me on that. But the dimension or the door. Also interesting because this is the line. This is what we call the baseline to the upper realm. So this is the door to the upper realm. And it's guarded here by the High Priestess. You feel me? And so this is how we begin to put this map of the heavens together. So this is upper heaven. It's guarded by the priestess, or the priestess sits in front of the Empress, who guards the door to upper heaven. You feel what I'm saying? Just a way to look at it, you know, bro. That might be the only downfall to this is me making sure I know how to work my mouse, so we're not going back and forth. And so the next card is the Emperor. Go ahead and get my camera ready. The Emperor. I ain't gonna lie. For whatever reason, I've never been fond of this card. And I desire to build, and I kind of strive to build an empire. But maybe I got dad issues. Nah, I love my pops. We have a great relationship. So this, I don't know. I'm gonna go look into it. I don't know. Maybe I'll figure it out as I'm doing this. But I've never really. There's a lot of cards in the tarot. The Emperor card has been like, maybe it's just a depiction. I think that's what it is. I think it's the picture of what the Emperor looks like and what I think like an Emperor should look like. Yeah. I'm going back to keep me off screen. I'm still not ready to be on camera yet. But the Emperor mixes up with Het. And so Het is the Hebrew letter that is associated with this, and I'm really gonna do this every time. And so Het is the trap from Chokmah to Tiferet. And so remember we said that this is the masculine head on its way back to the soul. And so in order to get to, like I said, these can be traveled both ways. So in order to get from here to here, you must be a fool. You must travel. You must understand the path of the fool. Let me be more accurate here. Let's word that a little more eloquently, shall we? In order to understand the travel from here to here, you must understand the path of the fool, and understand. In order to get from the mother to the source, you must understand the path of the magician. And so, to get from the father to source, you must understand the path of the fool. Or you must be able or willing to be a fool, or let go of your pride, more specifically. And like I said, I don't want to get into this too much, but I want y'all to just understand these concepts. And so this is still going from a masculine head to the soul, and it's represented by a masculine card. And so a lot of these things come together in its nature, and so things I like to point out as we go through here. And of course, the Emperor is related to Aries, and also a window. I thought the window thing was a bit strange. I want to look at my notes just to see what else I have here. But what else I have here is a point of view. And so it's kind of like the Emperor has like that highest point of view. He sees everything that's going on in creation. You see what I'm saying? And this is not really more so speaking about the Emperor on the path, but this is more so the achieving of the Emperor. The idea of going from Tiferet to Chokmah is the idea of having that full view of creation. But you have to look at it from a window. It's not, you can't touch it when you're viewing it at this level. This isn't a feasible thing. Like, you can go sit in that seat, but you can't touch anything. Like, even if you see the Emperor, like, I know this is still blurry, but you see he's sitting in the seat. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't moving nowhere. He chilling. He just at the window. It's just a point of view. It's the capacity to observe with nothing to observe. And so what we think about this is like, this is stillness without motion. You know what I'm saying? And that's an important, or one of the more important paths that we look at. And I want to go back because I realized that I did not go look at my notes for a couple of these. And so there's a couple more things that I want to break down while we're here. And I just want to make sure that I'm giving y'all everything that I got for y'all, and I don't leave out too much. And so I gave you my notes for most of this, but I didn't give you all my notes for this. So there's a couple more things I'm just making sure for Gamel, yeah, so we're right. So from Kether to Tiferet for Gamel here, and also dealing with the High Priestess here. It also relates to the dark night of the soul and to unification with Source. And so, like I said, we can look at this chart a couple of different ways. And so we can also look at this from heaven to earth, and we can also look at this from as this being your head, or for this being your crown. Because remember, when we look up here, Keter represents crown. So this can also represent your crown or your crown chakra. And from that aspect, we're more so talking about this idea of a dark night of the soul, or the idea of you getting from your root, not really your root, and that's a bad way of saying it, but getting from here, getting from your soul to source. You see what I'm saying? Getting from more of like this heart area, this midheaven, up into the higher realms, into your upper chakra. And so even when we look at here, like I said, we go back down here, and like I said, we're still looking at Tiferet, which is right with the heart chakra. And so, like I said, I'm going to start breaking down this, but I don't want to confuse y'all with everything that's going on here too much yet. So we're looking at Tiferet here being the heart chakra, and this direct path right here, which is going through this that I haven't told y'all about yet, that I was finna waste time telling y'all, like y'all knew what I was talking about. And so the Gamel is the path here, which is this direct path up. And it's interesting here because you don't see as much of the other pathways and things here, but we'll get into all of that later and why. But Gamel is just this straight path from here to here, and this is the idea of going from your heart chakra to your crown. It's not saying you're necessarily skipping these things. You still have to understand these principles. But if you understand these principles well enough, you don't have to go back and forth. You can kind of just jump up the pyramid. And so, let's get back to where we were. Alright, so we were at the Emperor and He. And next we have the Hierophant. And so, you know what's crazy? I kind of like the Hierophant a little more than the Emperor, but not much. Not gonna lie to you. The whole vibe, just kind of like in there. But he's considered a holy man. That's one of the things that, I don't know, everybody might not know what a Hierophant is. I didn't know what the fuck it was. Pretty much like a priest, like the Pope or some shit. That's what the Hierophant represents. And so, like I said, don't quote me on the tarot knowledge today, because that is not what I'm teaching. I'm just giving. And not only did I do that, I spelt it wrong. I'm not finna go back and fix that. Y'all know what the fuck it is. We're gonna move on from this pretty fast, because that's embarrassing. But I threw this last part together a little bit fast. So we're talking about, and so I think this is weird because I seen this two different ways. And so this is one of the things that is interesting when you study these things. You have all of these different documents because they say things differently, right? And so these should have been reversed. There's an indiscrepancy of where these go, right? So technically Vav, oh, I think I just did this out of order, or did I skip something? Don't mind me, this is me being an idiot, putting together presentations in a hurry. I mean, technically it's still working, right? But I'll just go through the paths. But okay, so just so y'all can clarify why I just move like a chicken with a head cut off is technically, which doesn't make sense to me. For my research, some of these can be flipped in essence. So some people may say that the emperor and the empress can be flipped. And some will argue that the Hierophant and the lover can be flipped. As you see on this chart, like it says, this has Vav here, whereas the chart that I looked at that has everything on it has Vav technically here. And so I'm gonna go really refine which one of these charts I care to deal with, or which one I think is more accurate before I do episode 3, because I'm learning a lot as I'm going through here. And so Zion and Vav apparently can be flopped. So 16 and 17 can be flopped, and 14 and 15 can be flopped, depending on which system or how the story is trying to be told here. Some people say it makes more sense to go from the mother to the father. Some people feel like it makes more sense for the father than the mother. I'm not getting into that. I don't know how in the hell this conversation happens, but I really don't think it makes sense to go from the priest to the lover. I think you should go from the lover to the priest, personally. But that's how it's mixed up. And even with that, this might just be my personal error, because Vav is considered here, which is right, but from where I got the correlation to this, it had it different. Maybe I just messed it up moving too fast. Let me look at my notes. Now I'm looking to see if I messed up Russian earlier. So I'm looking at Vav from down here. Nah, that's how I had it. So, from my understanding, the sixth path is Vav, right? And so that's going by the Hebrew alphabet, and that would be my way of checking that, which makes sense. So, alphabetically, it goes this way. But the place where I got the correlations, I'm not trying to tag or give nobody no credit too much, because I kind of just want to have the information. But the place where I got the information from has this swap. So they have the lover as Vav and the Hierophant as this, or vice versa, whatever. Like I said, I'm gonna just keep going. I feel like I spent too much time on that. So the Hierophant, or Zayin, which is the Hebrew letter, it represents sword, a sword. There's also a couple more things on that I believe were interesting. Because not only is it a sword, but it also represents like a weapon or a tool. And it's like power unused. So this is like the sword that ain't in use. Like, it ain't nobody. It's not a swinging sword. This sword ain't falling. It's not active. It's just the potential of a tool itself. You know what I'm saying? And so we're going to get into this because I know this seems a bit abstract, but we're going to get into how these are paths as we work about traveling it. But I'm just want to give y'all the associations. What time are we at right now? Because I've been fumbling for a while. See if anybody's came in and talked it up with us yet. I haven't really been paying the chat no attention. We have 49 minutes. And I'm like on path 7, but I'm finna go ahead and jump through the rest of this because I had a nice size intro for the presentation. Let's see. Okay, so let's keep it going. Still seems like we're working pretty well. And so the next thing would be the lovers. So this is the lover's card. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. It might be inappropriate for somebody or some platform. Who knows? But it's kind of representative of all that good shit. But in regard to the Hebrew letter, as I can get back to the screen decently, is Vav. And this is the path, technically, from Hakman to Chesed. And this is why this is gonna look weird, because the lover or the nail or the hook or Gemini is the path from this masculine head to this feminine body, or from here to here. And this is all about dual nature and dual energy. And it's interesting because this is the idea of learning or teaching cosmic law. And so this is idea of like this is idea of like this masculine energy teaching the principles from above. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like being taught by a master or being led to these things in a sense. And so that's why I feel like the Hierophant makes more sense to be in his place on the chart, you know? But this seems to match the energy more. And like I said, I may go back and redo this and make my own versions of all of this. A lot of this was just stuff I met and found as placeholders. And not to spend too much time on this and not to overdid it. But the misconception here is that the Binah to Tiferet here is represented by the Hierophant. But this here is represented by the Lover. Which, looking at it from this way, it makes more sense for Zan to be represented by the Lover and Vav to be represented for the Hierophant, just because of the underlying implications of the movements here. And so we'll define some of this more as we move through, and hopefully I don't have too much more confusion about which ones. So, keynotes here for Vav. Vav, like I said, is this transition here, but the images are going to be a bit off. It represents learning and teaching of cosmic law, the binder and unifier of energy. And Vav is a nail, hook, or anchor itself. It's represented by a nail, hook, or anchor, and the potential of atomic bonds. And so that's where the Lover thing comes in. And so, like I said, it's interesting, and it could be debated, some of these positionings and some of these, depending on which version of it you're looking at. And so let's go back to some sanity here. And let's see if I can finish this presentation without fumbling around too much more. But let's see here. The 8th path is where we're at now. The 8th path is related to the Chariot. And the Hebrew letter for this is Shet. I cannot pronounce it. But this is the path if I can get over here. This is the path between Binah and Geburah. And so the reason why I said the Hierophant kind of makes sense here, it's only in relation to this. And it makes more sense in the grand scheme of things. Because what we're talking about here is what are the things that can get you into upper heaven when you're coming from the bottom of the chart. Because we're walking down this chart from the top down. But coming back up, it's also important to realize that these are your gates in the upper heaven, in essence. You see what I'm saying? And that's a very interesting concept to look at when you look at these things and the cards that are represented there and different things of that nature. But that's, like I said, more stuff for episode 3. So let me get back into my spiel a bit here. Is it going? Do I got it? Alright. Thought I was fine. Thought I knew what I was doing. And so, that ain't even the right card. Alright, so. Let me see, where am I at? Oh, I'm here. Stupid boy. Okay, so. I gotta show y'all this card because this is also probably one of my favorite cards. Just look wise, I think it looks kind of cool. I think it's interesting that we have these cultures that try to erase shit, but then they use it in their things as well. And so here's the Chariot. I just think the Sphinxes are cool. I don't know who King Charles and them cousins on the front of it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who's supposed to be riding on it. I ain't gonna lie, I'm just looking at it. I ain't realized it's a chariot without wheels. Never mind. But you know, there's a lot that goes into chariots, especially when we talk about holy chariots and the concept of what exactly that may be. But that's a conversation for another day. And so, this is the connection between Binah and Geburah. It's represented by a fence. Once again, we already know the Chariot card and the Cancer sign zodiac. And so this is interesting because it's also considered to be representative of a boundary. And this ladder, or Jacob's ladder specifically, is sometimes associated with this pathway. And so, like I said, we're talking about the pathways to heaven. So some would argue that Jacob's ladder is here. Some argue that it has to do more so with the middle path. And like I said, this is more stuff for episode 3. So next we have what may be one of my favorite cards. Possibly. Maybe. Kind of. We'll see. I just like it because of what it represents. But right here we have strength. And the associated Hebrew letter will be Teth. Teth. I don't know. I can't pronounce it. But this will be important because it brings back one of the more important concepts that we're looking at. And I guess I want another concept that I've left out for the other ones. But here we have another one of these horizontal lines. So this is the line between Geburah and Chesed. And so it's representative of the second mother, I guess, if you want to put it there. And I want you to remember that this is a holy trinity, but we're dealing with the Empress and Strength, which also has a woman on it in a lion. Maybe they were hinting at something, maybe they weren't. But what also is associated with Tet is a basket or a serpent, which was interesting when I heard it because I was like, what does that mean exactly? But it's also considered an open container or a serpent or the Ouroboros. And I believe that's interesting because this is the top cap on what we consider mid-heaven. And so when we talk about that, a lot of people consider the Ouroboros or the snake or the serpent to be what we live inside of. So like they represent the Ouroboros to be almost like the Milky Way galaxy, or like this idea of something that we're engulfed in, that we can escape from it. There is things outside of, but that our specific density or whatever you may want to call it is engulfed in this, what we would call the middle to lower realms, which is also interesting because your soul sits directly under this line. And so in order to get past from your soul seat to the upper realms, you would have to exit this serpent or this open basket. It's not like the basket's closed. It's not like you're locked in, but you have to know how to get out. And that's a big thing here. And so another one of the concepts that came along with this was the mud or the primordial creation. You know how they say we was fashioned from mud. Some people argue that. And so we would say that the thing that we were fashioned from, the material that we were fashioned from, even with that, with the serpent connection, understanding how some people say we have a reptilian brain, or our DNA was molded from using some of that. A lot of that inclination comes here of like the primal matter or the beginning of form. This is like, how was it work? It was the birth of mass is what this was. So this is not like mud, like we're thinking about like mud, like dirt mud, but this is like cosmic mud. This is like ether having form in essence. This is the beginning of, this is the path where physicality is conceptualized on the process down this chart here. Oh yeah, how did I forget? The most important part is represented by Leo. Hey yeah. But you know something that just clicked in my head that is interesting because my notes told me that the parallel or these diagonal lines, as far as the Hebrew alphabet is concerned, represent the zodiac. But as you look through some of the representations here, you'll see that it's not always as consistent as you may see. Or a lot of people try to associate the imagery with the space on the line. And so you realize how these different cultures have separated this knowledge that's kind of conjoined in different ways. And so that's what makes this stuff so complicated to dig through, and why I'm fumbling so much going through it is because there's an aspect of this that's quantum. It's really whichever way you best understand all of this and can remember it, and the right values of this is kind of the more important part. So take what you can get, leave what doesn't resonate, go look up what does. You know, if you feel like I left something out, I didn't give you enough detail, leave a comment. Shit. Say something. But we on the Hermit. I like the Hermit. I feel like it's one of those phases that I stayed in too long in the process of moving through different things. And let's be clear here, this is not necessarily a linear journey, because you can be reset. But that's a whole nother conversation. And so we get into Yod, which is also represented with the Hermit, but this is also considered the hand of God. Kind of, sort of. You know? And so it's interesting because this is considered like, not the hand of God like the hand of God, but the hand of God. Because remember, we're in midheaven. And so this is as close as God is getting to you. He's only dealing with this version of you. And so when you would like to go and deal with him, this is the version that you have to deal with or walk with in order to get to here, which allows you communion with what they would consider Father. And so you see how we begin to navigate through here in various different ways. And so along with the Hermit and the Hand and the Yod, we get Virgo. And what else comes along with that? This is the operator of the operations. This is like your higher guidance. This is like what's the hand. You know, the hand of God is directing your life, or the hand of God is moving in your life. This is kind of where the path that it reaches down to do that. And so a part of my note says the power of God guiding creation. And so let's keep on going here. Like I said, I got to get through this because it's getting late and I'm ready to go. No, I'm not really ready to go. I just got to go to work tomorrow. And it's like, all right, how late are you going to be up doing this? And things of that nature. Wheel of Fortune's next. Tripping. But, okay, so we had the Wheel of Fortune. And back here. Oh, we over halfway through the presentation. So, it's not too bad. And so, this is the 11th. Oh, matter of fact, we're almost literally at halfway through. And so, this is Cap. I don't know. Don't quote me on that one. And so, this is the path from Hesed to Nexak. It's considered the palm of the hand. You see what I'm saying? So where was the hand at? The hand is here. This is the palm of the hand. You see what I'm saying? The hand, the direct hand, the whole hand reaches to the soul. The palm of the hand reaches over here. It's representative of the Wheel of Fortune. This is kind of like the palm of the hand. It's like this idea to shape things. It has to deal with Jupiter. I'm going to just throw that in there, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more later and how that works out with the Wheel of Fortune and Jupiter. But this is the palm of the hand. This is the ability to shape them. This is the power for matter to receive or create, almost, in a sense. So this is where you kind of get this idea of being like a potter, you know, or even being a prayer and somebody that receives open hand and seeing what the world gives, or taking what the world gives and building with it with the palm of your hand. Is a bit of this concept here. Like I said, I'm going through At the speed of light. Well, somebody said the Justice card. The Justice card is amazing because who doesn't like a little bit of justice? But it's also one of those cards that sits in a bit of a interesting place. Because see, this sits at the opposite side of the hand of God. Also parallel. But it's balanced by strength. You see, and so like these concepts get crazy as you begin to get into things. But the important thing here is that justice sits between Tiferet and Gebra. And I believe something wants me to stop and look at this and remember why that's important. And so earlier before we said this is the harmony and the power of vision or judgment. Oh, the Ox score. That's what I didn't put on here. And so there's a connection here between the Ox score 1122. There's a thing here. It's a thing. I don't know. I'm just gonna point it out for now, and I will figure it out later. But my head had a ping, and I had to point it out. And we're not at that card. We are here. Boom. Okay, and so what goes along with that is Lambda, or the staff. You see, in spiritual learning and justice. I'm gonna go back and completely rebuild that one. That's why this is interesting. This is actually the center of the chart. So this is the dead center path. So if you wanted to ask where the middle is, this is actually what some people consider the middle. Which is weird, because I guess it's like 22, 13, and it's like that path after 11 or before 11. Like, which one do you pick? Do you pick the middle? Whatever. I think that's odd, but for whatever reason, people pointed it out as the middle path. But a note that I have here is that this is where seekers are called. So this is another level of spiritual learning. This is kind of like, if the other side is the hand of God, it's kind of molding you. This is the side that's asking you to mold yourself. Almost. This is the side that's asking you to seek knowledge, to grow, to expand. You know, and like I said, I'm gonna figure out all the connections here. But it's also interesting that, like I said, let's look at the comparison here. And so, before I even get into this, I just realized why I thought about this. But if we're looking at the hand of God and the palm of God, and so we're looking at this idea of kind of like the hand that's helping their higher self, and the palm that's giving you the ability to mold or be the hand or move into this idea. Over here you have what you would call justice, and then you have the hangman. And these principles are interesting because you have this idea of spiritual learning. But watch what comes into this in this next letter, which is the hangman. Or the staff, even more accurate. And the whole staff concept, like I said, I'm going to be all over the place with this lesson. This is going to be one where I'm going to have to just clean everything up on episode 3, because I'm all over the place. And I just want to go through these paths. But the hangman, I'm going to show y'all that, and we're going to keep on going, because at this point, I'm just trying to chop through it. Through it. But it's important because Mem is here. And Mem represents the water. And this is not like regular water. This is like primordial water. And it's interesting because, like I said, this is the idea of pouring out from this midheaven area here. But I like this because this idea of spiritual learning. So the hand of God and the palm of God. So this is more like physical matter. This is how you move. This is the physical things happening in your life. This is how you handle those things, how you meditate and think on those things. And this is more like Wheel of Fortune. This is your ability to create and what you create and how life randomly would deal with those things. And so this is more of a aspect of justice or balance, or really evaluating these things without less of this. I'm just going to let something guide me. And so we're just talking about the idea of traveling this thing, which is more of a third episode concept. But I want to bring this in here because this deals with water. And so an idea of being the spiritual in order to create God, flow, or allowing. This hangman thing also is done with allowing. Spiritual growth and education has to deal with this idea of allowance, whereas this is more of a creation or a forcing or a molding. You see, it's just a concept I wanted to bring up as we're going through this. And so next, oh wait, let me see what else goes with the hangman before I move on too fast. All right, also represents. Okay, so let's go back. There. So I knew there wasn't enough here. So this is more of the tangible spiritual learning. So this is more like dealing with the idea of chi or force, or whereas the other side is dealing with actual physical matter or creation of things or molding or doing things with the palm of your hand. This is more so dealing with the idea of your intuition, your ability to feel chi and build and mold with chi, which takes a stable intelligence. That was the key there. I forgot. I can't believe I didn't put this on the presentation. Like I'm saying, this is one that I'm gonna go back and do a YouTube video on. That's gonna be separate from the live because this was a lot, and I had to I almost didn't do the presentation. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I almost said, you know what, fuck the live. I need to just do this another day, but I'm staying consistent and I'm sticking to what I said I was gonna do. But I might take a week off after this one. So, temperance. No. See? Tired. Death. We're gonna go ahead and finish this up. And I'm gonna go ahead and do something else. But death. Yeah. Y'all scared of that one. And I don't even want to begin to get into it. Because I've never looked at this card for real. I ain't gonna lie. My whole time of pulling this card, I have not pulled this card yet for me in a reading. So I've never really looked at this card, bro. And 13, Astro, we gotta talk because I just had a whole realization about what you be on and what niggas be talking about with death and understanding that. And that's a whole other conversation. That's for grown folks though. That's an adult. That's an adept conversation. But death, what can I tell y'all about death without scaring off people that, cling to life in unhealthy ways? So death is related to Noon, and I think I'm gonna reference this path as Noon because I feel like this is the one that feels a little more comfortable as Noon or Nun or whatever it's pronounced. But this is the path from Tipperet to Nexat here, and it's the fish that swim in the waters here. And I want you to start realizing how this is kind of all over the place because how is the water over here on this path, but the fish swimming in the water is on this path? This made my head hurt. This was when I was like, all right, yeah. So we just gonna get through this, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna tighten this up. But that's what my notes for today. That's what I got for y'all. It's represented by the fish in Mem, or the energy that moves through the water. They're not necessarily like fish directly, and that was why I was weird. It's like fish in the water. What? Where did fish come from? Are we at matter yet? But no, this is the idea of flow state. It's represented by death because I think this is significant. These two things are correlated because your ego has to die for you to reach a flow state. And so this is what we call the little death. And that's why I make all the jokes about death here. Even with the Scorpio being here, it's just so synchronistic. Because it's like you got to realize that even like the Scorpio has three phases. A lot of people don't know this. So it's the Scorpion, it's the Phoenix. Or it's the Scorpion, it's the Eagle, and then it's the Phoenix. So there's 3 levels to Scorpio. It's the only zodiac sign that has 3 levels. And you got to understand that these different levels of the Phoenix between the Scorpion and the Eagle. If we do the Eagle, the Eagle is death. Like the Scorpion has to die to let the Eagle free from his shell. The Eagle has to die and be burnt for the burnt to ashes for the Phoenix to be born. And so this is this idea of understanding death and the energy of it and how it relates to the flow state. and being able to move through these waters that they're talking about here. And like I said, we're gonna get into a lot of the mythology and some of the stories around a lot of this, and I'm gonna have some fun. But what else can we have here in Noon? Also, we have the tangible energetic fluid. Soul recognizing infinite nature. Okay, so this is like I said, this is death. This is flow state. This is like you recognizing your connection with nature, with this water that we're moving around in, and how you interact with it and how you move through it. And this is also considered the relation between the body and the soul. So that's why it's rated a flow state. You know, flow state comes in a lot when we talk about athletic performance. This is where that clicks at. And now we're on temperance. I know y'all seen the card earlier, but I feel like I'm not gonna feel right if I don't at least bring it back around. Cause this is another one of the cooler cards. Cause now we're getting into some angels, and I don't know how he doing this with these cups. And I'm pretty sure that's fire on his chest. Maybe it might all make sense, or maybe it's just more rabbit holes for us or somebody to dig into. Let's see. Cause now I'm concerned because okay. My question is kind of answered. Now, granted, I feel like I spelled this one wrong, so I want to go look at this because I couldn't figure out which one. What is this? So this is Tiferet to yes. I just wanted to look at the spelling on this. Okay, cool. I added an E. I'm like, why this look like this? But I don't know how to speak Hebrew, so I didn't want to correct it. But yeah. So y'all forgive me. This is my second episode, and I'm a little bit ignorant. God is working on me, but this is another one that is interesting to me because this is the trap from Tiferet to Yesod. And so I don't know if y'all realize, but I tell y'all all the time, I'm a middle path guy. I don't want to go through all this. I'm not gonna lie. I understand all these principles. I understand all the archetypes. But if we talking about something I want to repeatedly do, if we got to go up and down this at any point in time, it's some of this over here you don't want to have to go through more than once. I ain't gonna lie. We ain't even got to none of this over here, which is the real crux of the matter. We just passed death. You see, everything up here was cool. It's the Fool, you got the Magician. It's all magical. We in a little magic kingdom up here. Everything cool up here. All this is good living up here. You feel what I'm saying? But then you get down here, you get the strength, and you're like, oh, okay, strength, that's cool. Hermit, what's the old man doing? It's kind of creepy. Whatever. Nah. The Wheel of Fortune, justice for what? The Hanged Man. All right, so now y'all got me tripped. You know what I'm saying? But then you get to death. We go from the Hanged Man. We went from the Hanged Man to death. Now, granted, we saying that you got to go up this chart. So this little section right here is where most people lose themselves. Between death and the tower is where most of y'all, or us, is stuck in a cycle. Between Scorpio and Mars. Between war and death. That's the rest of my little rant for today. Let me get back on what I'm supposed to be getting on. What else? What else is here? Did I skip? I'm on temperance. See? And so temperance represents the pillar. So that's important because this is the structural integrity of your soul. Like, this is your backbone on the map here. You feel what I'm saying? So Tiferet and Yesod here. This is the pillar. This is the pillar on the middle path on the way out. You understand me? And so it represents the Sagittarius. So that brings that fire in for you. I'm yawning now. But we almost there. Yeah, I don't know how to say this. So it's representative of support or the pillar. The pathway to upliftment. Support the soul used to support your body upright. So this is like the support for your soul. Like I said, friend, this is your mind. This is your soul. this is what's supposed to keep you from going crazy. So if you lose this connection with this, or you lose this aspect, or you lose temperance. Matter of fact, now I gotta look the word up because I ain't even look up what temperance meant, and I can't say I know. It's abstinence from alcoholic drink. Ain't that some shit? So the pillar, the stability, if you would like to keep your balance and stay the middle path, alcohol will not be your friend. Y'all pray for all of us, because I'm going to have to put the drink down for a little bit just to see. Like I said, this the path I'm trying to be on. But I put the alcohol down a long time ago. I had good times with the drink, and I left it alone. And I decided that I like smoking a little reefer better. That ain't no better. Don't trade your vices. Like I said, this is not me trying to be your role model yet. This is just me getting the information out as I clean up my life and I learn more about this and what it takes. And I hope I inspire you to seek more knowledge as well. And so we had temperance. We done went through all of that. This is what holds your form, though. So, like, even when you think about the idea of being drunk and temperance, also realize that I want to call it segment so bad, but the 15th path represents what holds your form. And so the next card here we have is the devil. And Lord knows. Fuck. It's been a long day. I ain't gonna lie. It took a lot to be on time for y'all today. Cause y'all know I'm good for being like, yeah, you know what? Fucking I ain't shooting today. But I want to stay consistent. So here we are. We're gonna fight through it. Devil is the next card. And like I said, these cards don't get no better. Like, we gotta stop. We went from death to stop drinking. Now we at devil. And why? Who he got locked up? Some would say it's the lovers. You know, but like I said, that's a whole other conversation. So what comes with the devil? Because I don't want to stay there too long. Ayin is the word. Ayin, Oyin, whatever. I can't pronounce none of these words. You know, like I said, I'm going to go through here one day. I'll make it all nice and pretty for y'all. And I'm going to know how to say all the words. But I really just wanted to get y'all this information. Because I ain't talking about nothing that ain't nobody already covered and that you can't go find the correct way of saying and all that. I just wanted to bring it to some new ears and eyes and to it to the platform as a base point for how complicated some of the conversations might get. And also to scare away some people that just ain't got no business here. But I prefer I. So we just gonna leave the devil alone right now and we gonna focus on the I. Because that was the more important thing about this path to me. And so we're talking about the path from the soul to whole. And so the reason why this is interesting is being an eye is because this is where you perceive your third eye to need to be on for you to transfer. Because you need to be able to the devil in his face when you go through. And you need to be able to see some particular things about these people locked up here on this card. There's some details that I'm going to get into later. Not today. That's episode 3 stuff. But there's ways through this and understanding this that involve you need to be able to see here. And so the eye comes into place. And so does Capricorn. But what about the eye? So this is the illumination of what's hidden. And so this is kind of like spoiling the devil's trick here. This is what the bigger point of this little point would be. It's like, how can you spoil the devil's tricks? Well, you got to be looking. And so this is the act of observing something. This is physical observation here. This is like when you feel like it's something over your shoulder or you like it's a demon watching you. This is what that is. This is the feeling in reverse or in back way. So this is kind of an interesting place to see. But it's the idea of the mind's eye and mental images. An idea of even being able to focus or place intention on a thing. And it's interesting because if you journey, I'm not going to get into the two specifics of journeys today and what journeys are, or what kind of journeys I'm talking about. But if you journey, and you know what I mean, you kind of have to be willing to look the devil in the face to get out the door. And I'm going to leave that there. And just mind you that we're once again talking about this path to the soul seat, to the actual version of yourself. It's guarded by the devil, death, and temperance. Right? Let's just put that into perspective. This is the lower realms down here. It ain't no way out of here based off of these paths without passing through death, no alcohol, or the devil. I'm just gonna put that out there for y'all. I just want y'all to understand what we talking about here and why I said that this is an interesting place that we find ourselves in, because this is the map. This is before we, like I said, this is heaven up here. All this is heaven. This is angels and the old man in the corner and the wise man. All that. This is big heaven. This is where the family is at. This is but down here, this is where we at. You know. And so it's interesting because there's a flip here, because the cards on this bottom part of the path are a lot more astral, but this is the material realm, and the cards in the middle represent usually death or transition or a commitment of some kind to a higher knowledge. Even the angel here, because this is the only angel in all of this, next to death and the devil. Like, this position of this is crazy. If you really just take it in and think about it. But the important thing here is that everything up here looks regular. These is people. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is the people up here? The stars and the planets down here. It's literally reversed. I don't know. I don't have no answer. I just, want to let y'all think a bit. So, we back on the devil. We back on the eye. And I honestly think I covered everything for this. Yeah, so let's keep going. And so now, I have a bittersweet relationship with this card. I like the Tower card, because the Tower card is one of the cards that you get excited to see when they pull, because it's like, ooh, what kind of tower? Is it something I want to burn, or is it something I don't want to burn? And is it going to hurt me when it burns, or is it just going to make some shit break that I don't give a fuck about because it was annoying me anyway? But the Tower. You might be familiar with this. A lot of people call this like one of those bad luck cards. And like I said, just going back into this idea that in order to get from the lower realms to the higher realms, you got to go through some shit. These are your transitions from shit to sugar. I just want to put that out there. This is the important part of the class for me. If you want to get out of what you consider pain or disruption, it revolves you going through one of or a combination of all of this. Death. Oh, matter of fact, no. Let's be specific here. Let's be specific here. So, if you want to get out, you almost can't skip it. Which one is it? This one. You can't skip the Tower. You're going to have to break or something. You're going to have to get rid of the foundation. And we're going to get into what this represents. But you almost got to see one of these two guys. You know what I'm saying? The only way you skip them is temperance. See why I like the middle path now? Which one you want to do? But I'm off my soapbox. I'm going to go back and mind my business. But, yeah. And so we go to the Tower. So After I've gotten that down, I can almost wrap up at that point. Because to me, that's the most important part about all of this. It's like, all right, so why would I need to know this? Because it might just save you some time. So with the tower comes Pat, and we just gonna go back out to make sure I'm not forgetting about it. Oh yeah. Oh, second, something else that I forgot about. No, we'll make sure. Cause where we at? Ah, yes. This is the oddball here. So Pet is from whole to next, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss this, and I didn't want to overcomprehend this. But this is the only one of the three mother paths that ain't a mother or a female. And mind you, once again, we're talking about this is the barrier out of the lower realms. So it don't matter which way you come up out of here, you gotta go through a tower moment. And that's why some people might say, oh, well, technically temperance don't gotta go because it's not zigzagging either way type shit. Or you don't really have to, but this is your boundary. You feel what I'm saying? It's interesting. You know what I'm saying? It's another note there. But this is your boundary. Out of the lower realms is the tower. And these are your three paths out. That's pretty much what I was just playing earlier. And so, where we at? And so, mind you, that the tower moment is all about communication. In the mouth. Head more so is connected to the mouth. And communication. And the transmission from one state to another. And so that's why I like the tower. Because the tower, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a burning building, it's destruction, it means your life is going to be ruined. Nah, not really. It's more so about you being willing to communicate things that have been hard for you. Which could be warfare for some. And so, if you handle tower moments well, it means you're willing to speak well. And speak honestly. You know what I'm saying? This is about communication and not being afraid to speak to the truth of the moment. Even if things are falling apart. It's a very powerful card. It's a very powerful position. It's a very powerful boundary to be what we would give ourselves getting out of exiting the lower realms. So next we have something else. Another one of them cards is like, do I want to show this one? Like, I might just skip this, right? I don't know. I'm on Twitch. Hopefully they won't care. But the star card, because we ain't worried about what. Yeah, it's the star. That's what's important here. We're not worried about the itty bitty middies. But that sound like Finale. Shout out to that boy Finale Bit TV, all that. Go check out his Twitch. That's a funny nigga, man. But we talking about the star. And I like stars. You know, it's weird. I'm not really a big fan of the star card in tarot, but it's Taddy or Ja. I don't know how to pronounce this one. I ain't gonna lie. I want to see because I have it spelled two different ways on my notes again, and so I want to look and see how is it spelled here. So it's this, so that would be this. How do y'all spell it here? Yeah, it's spelled with a Z. It's almost like Zaddy, Jadi, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I thought about when I seen it. I'm like, what the fuck? But Taddy. I don't know how to pronounce this. But this is pretty much from here to here. It's like this little line. And so this is interesting because it's like, this is the idea of like you're here. You don't really have to necessarily go through the mind. Like you can, but you don't. Like that's why I like calling this the mind, because it's like, or the ego, because you don't really need, like you do, like it's an aspect of yourself and it's used, it can be a tool, but you don't really, like you can circumvent this on the way out. You know what I'm saying? Or you can go straight through. But it revolves you to have to deal with your mind, which some people feel like it's hard. So just a hint from an occultist that likes knowing other things. if you like shortcuts. I'm not recommending it at all. It's not just easiest way of doing things because your mind is a great friend. Your ego is a great friend. Your masks are great if you understand the function of them in the grand scheme of things and how to use them. And where are we at? Okay, so what are the points for this? So it's a fish hook. I thought that was interesting. Like, what the fuck is a fish hook? How does a fish hook star Aquarius? And so all of these aspects. So like the idea of a star pouring out, or even like torrential rains is some shit that I heard about recently that was odd. Now I'm rambling and I know it's time for me to finish. So back to my notes. Aligns the lower personality with the higher self. And so this is kind of like this aspect of like tying the soul into the higher self, tying the ego into the higher self. And like I said, this is why it's an interesting position, because this is your mind finding its way to this soul seat. And if I remember correctly, yeah, this is one of those other soul spots that I put where it's a fire. You feel what I'm saying? This is also Venus. This is love. This is triumph. This is eternity. And so that's interesting because we're getting back into this concept of why these lower concepts are kind of more celestial, because they represent these connections to the higher through the physical. So they have more physical things for us to reference, whereas these things are more abstract and need more physical things to define them, if that makes sense. Okay, so where are we at? Alright, yeah, so ain't gonna lie, y'all, I'm tapping out myself, but I'm gonna go ahead and get through the rest of this lesson. And then, cause I'm ready to smoke a blunt and lay my ass down. Excuse me for those that don't partake in the herbal life, but it's good for you. Moon is the next card. And with the moon comes another word I can't pronounce, but I will show you where it is on the image. And so this image would be here. This is the direct connection from you up. So this is the first connection that we really see. Technically, we're going the opposite way, so it's Nestek to Malkuth. But I want to point this out: is that this is your first connection from Earth, or you, or the root of you, out. It's represented by the moon. Tarot card, and it is also represented by the back of your head. The cerebellum specifically, is what is referenced. And so this is the idea of the root of your subconscious mind and understanding that pathway. And so this is like self-awareness. This is where your survival instincts work. And this is how you subconsciously see the world. So this is like you said, an idea in the back of your head. This is where that is. This is the path that represents that, and your awareness of that, and being able to use and or navigate with that. So we're on path 19. So we bringing it on in. We're not too far bound. We ain't too far gone. And so on the opposite side over here, literally on the opposite side, I believe, know, star, both stars. So this is on the opposite side of a star. It's interesting because the sun is a star, but you know, I'm not giving an astrology lesson today. Let's go back because we are on the Sun card, which is one of my favorite cards because it's also a Leo card. And, you know, there's a lot of interesting things about the Sun card. I've heard people describe the breakdown of the Sun card in a lot of interesting ways. So, I like the card and what it represents. But the Hebrew letter here is Rish. And this is, like I said, the trip from Hod to Yesod. I just showed you that, so I don't want to risk skipping back through the thing that I keep doing just to show you it again. But this is considered the top of the head. or your face. And so this is also where some people may consider the crown as well, or the sun. But this is your lower crown. You know what I'm saying? This is the crown on your physical body. This is your power to interact with the world and the definition of things and the power to choose. So this is like your willpower. This is your physical will. This is the path of your will. This is your direction of will, or you being in a will for motion, if that makes sense. And like I said, I'm tying up a lot of these a little quicker because, yeah, these are a little more easier concepts to grind in. These are things that you're more familiar with. This is closer to home, shall I say. And so as we grind these things in, let's not forget about judgment here. And I feel like judgment is interesting to be here because, once again, let's talk about a position here. An idea of getting back to heaven. And so on the other side of the moon is judgment. And I find that interesting because if you understand all of this, what you understand is that some people consider the moon to be a form of judgment. Some people say when you die, that light you see is the moon, and it's a floating spaceship that's here to send you back through the reincarnation wheel. Wild shit, right? But that's what people say. But on the other side, you see judgment. And once again, we see another angel. And so these are just, things that we know as connections and things that may or may not be relevant, but I'm pointing them out because I'm noticing them as I'm doing it. But the judgment here is interesting because this is what's getting you out once again. So out through the moon, through judgment, or control of judgment, or lack of judgment. You see what I'm saying? And so as we get into traveling the paths later, I'm gonna really break down some of my logic and really what I believe. Like I said, it seems more all over the place because I'm going to get research, saying what these things represent, seeing what elements and all that. And in episode 3, I'm going to really sit down and give y'all my breakdown on what I actually think and what all these things are worth. And so we get to judgment. In the Hebrew letter related to judgment is Shin. Like I said, we've already discussed it. This is the path from heart to Malkuth, from Malkuth to heart, and it represents a tooth or fire. Some people say that fire is judgment, like the fire, like the idea of walking through on hot coals or burning with the phoenix out of the ashes, all of this. So there's idea of fire or teeth. Tooth was actually related to the Hebrew word, but it also said it has something to do with the idea of grinding up, like the idea of your teeth grinding something, or fire destroying something was one of the things that I came across. But this is the ability to change and be changed in life. So this is about how judgment can change, or your vision of judgment, or your comparison of others can cause change and mold you in different ways. And it's an interesting concept. As like I said, as we get closer down to the bottom, these things get a little more better, so easier to understand. But this is like your furnace. This is your workshop. This is you grinding it out. Like your teeth grinding when you working on something or when you frustrated. That's just energy. That's just space. That relates to judgment. And so the last path. And it's crazy because it's like I'm rushing here and I'm like, damn, I didn't even know I was almost at the end. These last couple, I either flew through or I had just got my rhythm down. We're at the World, which is another one of my favorite cards. Not for the depiction on this card, but actually yes, for the depiction of this card. Something I've realized when I was talking about this card earlier with someone is you realize there are 4 species on this corner. The only one that we've talked about so far has been the axe, the ox, the lion. I haven't talking about a man or a bird, but it's interesting because these things, or some people would consider these the 4 progenitor races of human society, or the 4 things that come together to build this being in the middle. And this wreath can also represent Ouroboros, or the world that we are inside of. Like I said earlier, when I was talking about this idea of the serpent at the top of the middle heaven being around, this is depicted here. And so these are the beings in this middle heaven outside of this snake, which is another interesting point that we can get into when we talk about this as we dive into how these symbols and all these things get together. Because I'm almost done now, I'm going to give y'all a little more. And so when we talk about the idea of the Orion race, or the oxen, with a Taurus, bull, A lot of that has to do with Orion, I believe. I don't want to don't overquote me here. And so we deal with the Lyran here, or the Vega, or the Lion race. And then here we have what we would consider the Avian, or the Bird race, or the Aryans. And then here you would have what they consider like the Nordics, or I guess that's the Aryan too. Like the idea of these are the beings that Hitler ran into in Antarctica, supposedly. The blonde hair, blue eyed thing. And so, you know, that's just a couple of concepts of how deep some of these tarot cards can get. Like I said, that's a card I like, so I've kind of looked at it a little more. But here, let me go ahead and wrap up this presentation so I can get on with my night. So this would be Tay or Ta. Or is this really Tay? Head assness. Things that you didn't realize as you was typing. I think it's T-A-U or Ta. It is Tay. Might be just me not wanting to accept it. I don't spell my name that way, but hey, you know, Tav. That should be a V. Like I said, I was rushing when I made this. But I like this because the word is also correlated with the seal. And I went through the card because I wanted to explain to you that seal. And so a big thing that they talk about when they talk about Malkuth or the world is that it's hermetically sealed. There's an idea that there's something keeping this here. This band here is considered like that hermetic seal. And so I want to point that out as we get into this path, because the idea is in order for you to initially get outside of this path, you have to understand the hermetic seal, which is this wraparound here. Or more specifically, like I said, this snake, which is the wraparound here. This would be representative of this. And so all of these points, to me, represent the hermetic seal, or actually this whole symbol represents the hermetic seal, and the logic that you would need to understand to not have to go through it, to be able to just jump from here to here to here to here to here. And so this is what's important about the paths to me, is understanding this hermetic seal, the beings that guard this hermetic seal, and who you are inside of this seal, which is the fool inside of the world now that he was so curious about. And so that's the big wrap on episode 2. But there's a couple more things here in my notes that I want to tag into, because what's important here is also Ophiuchus was tied in here, the 38 zodiac symbol. And Saturn and Earth were used interchangeably as representations of this, which is just the only one that uses 2. And some people consider Saturn to be the real center or base of extraterrestrial life in our galaxy, whereas Earth is just kind of our hermetically sealed box in a sense. So this is an interesting concept, and I can ramble a bit now because we're almost done. But in essence, this is an interesting show, and I have to make sure that the stream is still live, because I have been in here running my mouth, and it's been almost 2 hours. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. That was a lot. I'm gonna have to go back and do the YouTube video to clean it up for y'all, because I don't even want to watch this 2-hour video to see if it's good. Like, I kind of just want to go back and just hit the key points. So I might redo something for y'all and play around with the recording settings. I appreciate y'all that came out for this. This VOD will be up live on the channel for a while. All the plugs, all the good shit. I'm really just ready to go to sleep. But that is the 22 paths. The 22 Hebrew letters, and the 22 major arcana. I gave you more on the Hebrew letters than I did on the major arcana, so I will definitely take time to dive into the major arcana, and I will take a separate time to dive into the Hebrew alphabet when I start studying Hebrew as a language, and not just to do it for this. I'll do the major arcana now. That's not too bad. I like that story. But I appreciate y'all. Players Collective Production. I don't want to do too much or too little. But I'm getting the fuck out of here. Y'all have a good night. Goodbye. And I appreciate y'all.